From your time in boxing, Johnny, I've got to ask you this because we're seeing a lot of people shout the term silent bans. And I've asked Eddie Hearn about this before, and he
Say
categorically
that again.
silent bans. So if, say, someone's tested for a drug or wherever and they've took a ban,
Yeah, yes,
it's
yes.
never going to get made public. I asked Eddie Hearn about this a while ago, and he basically said there's no way you could get away with doing that. So,
Oh, you do. It happens. It's happened
oh, does it
before.
happen? Okay, because I don't
Yeah.
want to. I don't want to. Out of respect, I don't want to be mentioning fighters' names, etc. Because we don't know if they have or haven't taken silent bans, if there is such a thing. But what I want to ask you is there such a thing as a silent
Yes,
ban?
there is.
What you heard there is an interview Boxing King Media did with Johnny Nelson. And, the interview itself, I think, is about 20 or so minutes long. It's time stamped, and the main, the title alone will draw you in. I believe the title reads, I know three people on a silent ban, or worse to that effect. And in that, Johnny Nelson is asked a question, as you will heard, about the silent ban in boxing. Now, I've heard about this before, and I've heard about it going back actually a good few years now. For those who don't know, some people have said that in boxing there are fighters who fail a PED test for whatever reason, and rather than it being made public, which is the case with like Ryan Garcia, which is the case with a lot of fighters over in America, when they fail a test, like say a VADA test, like Dylan White is a good example. When they fail a VADA test, it's made public. VADA announce it on their website. It goes to whichever, it could be the British Board or whoever, the Florida or Texas Commission. It goes to there. It's all public. More often than not, the fighter will end up taking a ban. It's all made public. But the silent ban is something that we've been hearing more so in the UK over the last couple of years. Now, in the interview, Boxing King Media puts to Johnny Nelson, and he said when he asked Eddie Hearn basically, I can't remember exactly the way he used it, but basically he said no. And I giggled a bit when I heard that, because the first I ever heard of silent bans, and I'm not going to name, obviously, I'm not going to name the fighter, obviously, but the first I ever heard of it was 2019, when this channel was, like, it's not, this channel only has 20K, so I say only, but like in the grand scheme of YouTube, this channel is tiny in comparison to some other channels. But in a boxing sense, it's not doing too bad, for the niche genre that it is. In 2019, it took me till October that year to hit 1,000 subs. I mean, by mid 2019, I was hearing rumors of a silent ban. I never heard it. I didn't know what that was. Well, I obviously the name kind of gives it away. But I was like, what on God's name, like, does that entail? Like a silent ban? It makes no sense. And two people whose opinions on boxing I respect very much, and I know they wouldn't, not that they don't like one another, they don't know one another, but two people whose opinions on boxing I respect very much, who would be very much in the higher up there, told me about it, and they both told me the exact same story, and I know these two people wouldn't have spoke. And it was about a certain fighter, why he was not fighting, and why it'd be a little while before we see him again, because he was serving that silent ban. And Johnny Nelson said that he knows at least three fighters, two of which he believes are retired. Well, who's the one that's currently active? And Johnny Nelson is basically admitting that, this is a real thing. It's a simple case where, a fighter fails, they go to the board or they go to UCAD and they say, right, I will take my punishment. I will take it on the chin. If it's a year ban, if it's a 2-year ban, I'll cooperate, etc., etc. However, let's not make it public, and I'll just have a shoulder injury, or I'll have a broken leg, or you can't really fake a broken leg, but you know what I mean. They will have an injury that will keep them out of the ring for a prolonged period of time to avoid, people raising eyebrows. Now, there is the bigger question: should that really be the case? Is that right? I mean, for some people, they would look at that and they would say, well, the fighter who is serving the silent ban, they're banned. They can't fight. They're banned for the year, for the 18 months, etc. So, in theory, they are being punished. However, should the public not be made aware? Because they're made aware, at least as far as I'm aware, in the US, in most states anyway. I'm sure, obviously, you have 50 states. Some of them are going to have different laws with how the commissions do it, so I get that. But for the most part, you're made aware, and certainly if it's VADA, you're made very, very much so aware. They release a statement and everything on it. How often does this happen in the UK then? If this is the case, if Johnny Nelson is confirming that, yeah, these silent bans are a thing, oh, we all kind of knew they were. That's why I laughed when Eddie Hearn was kind of like, okay, really, Eddie? Really? I kind of giggled when I heard Johnny Nelson say that, and he was kind of talking about it. Well, if you ask Eddie Hearn, well, of course he's going to say no. I'm sure if you ask Frank Warren and Ben Shalom, they'd say the same. Is it right to have a silent ban? Because at the end of the day, like, they are suspended, whoever they may be. They will serve their time out of the ring, as in, like, they won't be able to fight, they won't be able to make a living. But their name, and I think that's the thing a lot of people would say, which is why they want it made public, their name is not dragged through the mud. And crucially, that maybe this would happen with other fighters, I'm not sure, but if, let's say I'm a professional prize fighter, let's say I'm signed with Matchroom, hypothetically, I'm just using this as a hypothetical situation, and I'm coming up against a fighter who's been out of the ring for 14 months, just pluck a number out there, but he's been on a silent ban. He knows he's been on a silent ban, his promoter knows he's been on a silent ban, his team knows he's been on a silent ban, but do we know? Do me and my team and my promoter know? Do we know that that fighter's been on a silent ban? If we don't know, well, how do we know he's clean now? Because if we know, say Jarrell Miller, for example, if you're signing up to fight him, you're going to want to make sure there is strict VADA testing in place. You're going to want to make sure he is tested left, right, and centre, because you know exactly what you're getting with him. You know he's failed multiple tests. The public are aware of that. His name was dragged through the mud. Rightly so. Rightly so, for all those failed tests and not taking any responsibility. Rightly so. But you know what you're going to get. But if John Doe rocks up having served an 18-month silent ban, and you're none the wiser. Now, I know a lot of things, I know, like, word of mouth gets around in boxing, and listen, I've heard of fighters, again, I'm not going to go into that, I don't want to get sued or anything like that, but I have heard of fighters who have been out of the ring and, you know, surely if I can hear it, they would as well. But maybe you're an American fighter, maybe you're a fighter coming over from America to the UK to fight, and you're none the wiser, your team are not in touch with anyone really in the UK, so how are you going to know? So for that reason, I would say, yeah, they should release it to the public. They should let the public know that such and such has failed a drug test, or whoever has failed a drug test, whether it be a man or a woman, whoever it may be. Yeah, they should let them know. Because I think that the public have a right to know. I think the other fighters have a right to know that they're going in there with someone who has failed a test in the past. You could say, well, he served his punishment. Well, yeah, he served his punishment, but, you know, did you know that? As far as you're concerned, you're thinking you're going in there with a guy, oh, he's got a messed up shoulder. Shoulder's fine. It's not that. It's not that. It's a really interesting one that Johnny Nelson, I would recommend you go and have a listen. It's not a long part of the video, it's about 7 minutes in, and I only talk for a couple of minutes, but it's a very interesting one. Johnny Nelson admitting that silent bans are a thing. What are your thoughts on them? Do you think that, like myself, that it should be made privy to the public? And not just the public, but the fighters, managers, promoters, etc.? Because as I said, you know, yes, you could look at it and say, you are serving a ban, fair enough. You know, fair enough, you're getting banned. But your PR is not going to take a hit, and you are cheating, basically. Your PR is not taking a hit from that, and if you're fighting someone and they don't know any better, they could insist on just normal drug testing, not knowing that they're going in there with a cheat. You know, as I said, Jarrell Miller, rightly so, had his name dragged through the mud. No one's complaining about that, because it was made public. On all the occasions he failed. So if you're fighting him, you're going to be like, I want strict testing. I want this to be stringent. I don't want any mishaps. I want this strict VADA testing, the best of the best, because this guy has a reputation. What if you're going in there with someone who served a silent ban? You're none the wiser. Yeah. So an interesting one. I said I'd do a quick video. I have to talk about that one because it was so interesting. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Peace.